Welcome back, my friends. It's been a long time since I've been on video. So, getting ready to go to church this morning. And I figured, since I got this nice, lovely outfit on, that I would record one on camera once again. So, in the past, I know it's been a while, we talked about a few different things like the nervous system, mammal brain, things along those lines. And over the next coming weeks, I really hope to dive more into that so we can have a better, fuller, clear, and cleaner understanding. So, first of all, there's been a little bit of chaos going on out there, and it's sad to see. But I want you to really realize this so you can hone in on it fully, is that social media is a straight up echo chamber. Whether you're blue or red, liberal or Republican, it does not matter. The algorithms know. And this chaos is what allows us to then become very tribal about what side we stand on and really hate the other side. When in reality, we're all human beings here. A lot of us, there's just a very small percentage, the very radical, that are being pushed very heavily because it gets the most reactions out of people. So you got to realize people, whether they're liberal, whether they're Republican, they still got bills to pay. They still got a family. They still got loved ones in their lives. And it's just this small, very small percentage that are essentially being programmed, I do believe, by the algorithms to feed you all of this hate, all of this fuel, because it knows what's going to rile you up. So be very cautious, very careful, very selective when you're scrolling through your feed, so then that way you can curate it to what's going to work best for you. And I was on this call a couple days ago, and it gave us a very good understanding about how these things can essentially occur. Meaning, many people feel very isolated. Now, there's a lot of stats and data going into the fact that sociopaths, psychopaths are bred in cities, big cities. Why? Because it's very easy to isolate people, which then causes them to spend a lot of time online. And not only that, they have this idea that, with people, if they don't fit that group, that tribe, or they disrespect their values or break the rules with that group of people, there's just so many people in the city that they can then just bounce to the next one, to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And then understanding that with these radical views, there's a very small percentage of Americans that are it. And in the echo chamber of social media, it just gets amplified, blown out of proportion. And that's something that I think you should be very aware of. So when you find yourself getting very pissed off, my whole feed was about it. And everyone was saying something because it was triggering that tribal mentality of us versus them, no matter what side they were on. Now, it's very sad to see that there are people out there that applauded the death of Charlie Kirk, which I think is very not okay, and we should disassociate ourselves with those types of people anyways, and disassociate those parts that are within us that think that any of that is okay, even the slightest bit. Because if we go to the Bible and look at the Bible, the golden rules, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul. And the second law is to love thy neighbor as thyself, which is the ink blot, the understanding and concept of the idea of what if nobody outside of you was real and that you are just a different version of I. And what I ask of you is to fully let go of your judgment here and just remove it for the next few minutes with me. Now, what I ask of you is to be very open to these concepts and ideas because they have been very helpful for me. And when it comes to speaking to the prefrontal neurocortex, the mammal brain, and the reptilian brain, there are some few different things that have seemed to play a very big factor. So what I'm understanding about the reptilian part of the brain, to change the subject here fully, and to acknowledge what had happened and move on to what is going to be, is that the reptilian brain really loves pain. So my alarm went off. So the reptilian brain associates with pain. So the next time you go to journal, what I ask you to do is to put it as if it's already happened. And then from there, when it comes to anchoring these things, what I've come to realize is if we can anchor it to the body in a place that with the pressure that we put on that part of the body that we're anchoring it to, it can establish a feeling of pain to associate with that concept that you are journaling that has already been done. Now, a few concepts here is, I want to go into this one day, yet I don't know if it's the right time with it, but every 2,000 years, the Lord appears. Every 2,000 years, a great event happens. Every 2,000 years, a great milestone and shift of humanity occurs. Now, where does this come from? It comes from the Bible. There has been a handful of different things that occurred every 2,000 years, and it has been about 2,000 years since the return of Jesus Christ. And my theory here is, take it with a grain of salt, is I think he's already here. I think he's already living here, and I'm guessing that he's living on probably some island out in the woods, just like King David had to go through his whole being a shepherd process before he was really captivated and then turned into king. Now, Jesus Christ before had to go through probably the same similar process. And I think it's more so about him actually as a person, actually him as a man that has to remember. And what I mean by remember is the understanding of remembering that you are a consciousness, that you are not a body, you just happen to be experiencing this human lifetime in a body. So I'm going to dive into that a little later, and I think that gives us great news for Christians as those who understand the Bible. It just seems to be the truth, the way, and the life of this land here now. And regardless of what your opposing arguments are, that's okay. That's why I ask you to suspend that judgment so that way we can propel and progress into the future. So, what else has been happening? Life is really good, and I believe, again, it comes back to the fact of life and death are still and always will be, forever are to be, in the power of the tongue. In that, with it, my purpose here continues to evolve, and that it's more so geared around those around me. That I believe the Lord has already taken care of you, and that since he has already taken care of you, you are to help take care of those around you and point them in the path of being in a relationship with the Heavenly Father, with the Creator, because if we can all be on the same page here and now around that concept, I think that we're going to be able to move mountains, essentially, as the scripture says, together as a collective, as one big group working on and towards the same exact mission. So what was cool is I was on this class And what we were talking about is understanding people's needs, values, and decisions. And then we watched this video of how we would essentially speak to someone, and based off of their needs, values, and decisions, what is the best way to approach them? And with us all being drug addicts, it's very, very interesting to understand that you or I can essentially give that drug dose to anyone. Now, it's not by actually giving them any sort of drugs, but with certain words that you're using. And language is just a byproduct of it all. It's not the whole end all be all, it's just part of the equation. And with that, we're going to be able to open this loop up here more into the future. So tune in, continue to come back, and if you can, go listen to past episodes, so that way we can be in alignment with everything here in this present moment. So after the call, they talked about how would you go and speak to this person who we just watched on the video, and how would you approach them at his son's football game? And, everyone went around, they said this, said that in terms of conversations, which was pretty cool. I was on the road, so I was just listening on the Zoom call. I didn't necessarily say anything nor participate, but I plan to in the future. And with all of it, I got out of the car after the call was over, and I had to go to one of my favorite Iowa restaurants, which is Ponchero's. I've spoken about this before, and I probably will continue to speak about this into the future because it's very delicious. Love that they mix everything up, and it's a great, fantastic burrito to where Chipotle, if you're watching this, please take some notes. And I got out of the car and I go walking towards the door, and I notice this person. And I'm like, man, that guy looks familiar. So I stopped right at the door as he comes walking up, going into the same exact restaurant that I was going into. And I said, man, you look familiar. He said, do I? I just kind of smiled at him. I'm like, man, I can't figure out his name at this very moment. And then I continued on the conversation of, I believe you played for the Minnesota Vikings. He's like, you're right. And I said, what is your name again? He's like, you're going to have to figure that out. And as we got in line, it clicked. It was just Chad Greenway, one of the best linebackers to play for the Minnesota Vikings over the last decade. And I really like Eric Kendricks too. He was a great linebacker as well. But I ran into Chad Greenway, which was very interesting to say the least, of how we were just speaking about on the call previously, of how we would speak to someone at their child's football game. And I just happened to then come in contact with one of the best linebackers that has ever played for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I didn't get his autograph. It looked like he was in a hurry. And we both got our food and we went on our way. But it's just very interesting and very cool to understand that once we can see through the ego, I don't think the ego is something that we are disconnected from. I think it's something that we've always been in connection with, and that it's not the enemy, it's not the opposition, it's still a part of us, but it has a certain phrase and certain way that it likes to communicate. And I believe sauna cold plunge is some of the best ways to see that ego dissipate, to align with it, to become essentially one with it. And I believe once you can become one with that thing, there was this video that talked about the 7 laws or 7 stages of the ego. And the final one was flow, where everything flows absolutely perfectly for you, regardless of what it is. Meaning everything is in perfect sync, perfect harmony, no matter what it is that you are going through. And I think that's a good lens to use, to have, and to align with, because if I am you and you are I, just in a different version, I believe that's going to allow us to get along as human beings a lot better. And knowing that the echo chamber is very small, very radical, created by those who want division. And again, if you can recall back over the last couple days of the types of division that were going on, it was absolutely insane. And it fired a lot of people up. And I don't blame them. But at the same time, I want you to realize that, again, it's a very small percentage of the people that are radicalized. And that if you can remove that from your perspective, your point of view, I believe that it's going to help you connect, have better relationships, and stay open-minded to those who may view a certain thing from a different perspective. And that's okay. So the last episode, if you listen to it, I took a very high dosage of nicotine. So there's this company called Loon. They make these 28 milligram Zins. And for some odd reason, I felt as if I needed to take 2 of them and then push my body into the simulation of, we are going to do this regardless. In the whole entire episode, I was having a very tough time on labeling exactly what I meant in terms of everything is going to be okay. So if you're there with me and you know what I'm talking about, the thing that we are looking for is safety, because it's programmed in our genes going way back into the day that safety is something that we're always looking out for. And if we can think about it, you're in the woods here, walking around in the middle of nowhere, and you're supposed to be hunting for your tribe. That's the situation that I would need you to imagine right now. And you're going about walking around, and all of a sudden a stick snaps. Now, that's what's going to trigger the fight or flight, meaning either safety or rewards are the 2 situations with that stick snapping when you didn't expect it to snap. And how I mean by that is safety in terms of, hey, if that's a bear, I either need to kill that thing or get the heck out of here. Or rewards, such as that could be a rabbit that is going to allow us to feast for the next couple days. And with it, understanding that through each and every moment, no matter what it is that you're going through, have going on, start to train and say to yourself that I am safe, that everything is okay, that feeling of safety and essentially the spinal cord is where it needs to be. And the spinal cord is the show. That's where a lot of these programs run, operate, and move people. So I will have more to go in upon that. But with that being said, my friends, I wish you a great week. Love from the bottom of my heart. And to allow you to align and give yourself that permission of what it is that you are going after. You already have it. You've had it the whole entire time. Now start acting as if it is already done in your favor. And God bless you all, and peace be with you.